Footy Finals are here, the NFL's back, and Arnie Slot wins the Duel of the Dutch at Old Trafford. This is the Armchair Athlete Podcast. We finally made it. We are here. Footy Finals have arrived, and after one of the best regular seasons in recent memory, maybe of all time, we can finally see who's going to lift the flag at the end. And given how unpredictable the regular season was and the chaos which is the best word for it, really, the chaos or chaotic season, just given how much change there was to the ladder, it would be surprising if come finals it's anything different. And so every game this first week can go either way. We'll run through my predictions on each game. By the time you're hearing this or watching this video, the Port Geelong game's probably already happened. I'm recording this just before it, so by the time I get it all edited and get it up, that'll be likely tomorrow, so you'll know whether I was right or wrong in my prediction. Hopefully I was right, and I at least get one prediction on the board, because if you think back to my regular season predictions when we did the ladder predictor, it was horrific, which I'm not surprised given how the season went. I tried to go a bit out there with some of the picks, but it just didn't work well, and come the end of the season we'll take a deeper look at that, I should say, and how it is. But getting back to the finals, it's weird to think we're already here. Both the season feels like it vanished in no time at all, but it also feels like ages ago that we were kicking off. So it's just interesting we're here, and it'll be interesting to see how the teams play out and how it'll all go. I mean, like I said, every game can go either way, and I want to know your guys' predictions as well. So let me know in the comments below who you think will win each of the games, who have winning it all as well, who you think will make it. And just these matchups, I mean, when you look at the Hawks Bulldogs game, I mean, that being the 6-7 matchup, it feels wild because they're two teams that no one will want to face. So the top four will be looking at that game, thankful that one of those teams will be out of the competition come the weekend. So it's just amazing. And then you got the Sydney Derby happening as well. Carlton, Brisbane, 5th versus 8th, but Brisbane have sort of wavered a little bit in recent times of the regular season. Carlton have already beaten Lions at the Gabba this year as well to start the season. And Carlton, although they've been in poor form and kind of snuck into the finals thanks to Freo throwing it away, the fact that getting so many players back, it just will give them such a boost to the morale and the energy of the team that I wouldn't be shocked to see them actually get an upset up at the Gabba. So we'll run through the predictions now, but like I said, let me know your thoughts on how you think this will all go. We kick off finals with the Thursday night game returning, and it's Port Adelaide taking on Geelong. And had you said these two teams would be second and third on the ladder 6 weeks ago, no one would have believed you. I mean, just the struggles they had. At one point, Ken seemed like he was going to be out of a job. Geelong seemed like their age was getting to them, and then all of a sudden they both come steaming home towards the end of the season to climb up into that top four. And this will be a really tough game. I think for me, it's a case of Geelong's experience versus sort of Port's youthfulness and energy. That's the real contest. I mean, my prediction is that I do actually see Geelong getting over the line. I think their experience will show. They just have too many players who have been there and done it in what are the final seasons for some of their big players. I think just they'll be looking to send them off on a big note. And then Port, they've just struggled so much in finals in recent years that until they actually start winning them, I'm not going to back them to do it. And that this could be a bias pick. 100% could be a biased pick. I mean, I'm as a well-documented Crows fan, so I don't want to see Port win anything. Them out straight sets would be my absolute dream. But given their history in finals, until they start winning, simply, as I said, I just refuse to pick them. Although they've got players like Butters and Horn Francis and Rosie, the experience of Geelong just makes me think they'll have the edge and they'll be able to get it done. And it'll be interesting to see then in that following matchup where Port go, because good thing for them is they'll have the next home final as well at the Adelaide Oval, so they'll have the edge, but I think it'd be a tough game, and I can see Port running away with it. The one thing that is making me reconsider my initial prediction is Tom Stewart's late out. Saw it just before I left work to come home. So seeing that makes me really consider, because I think he's a pivotal piece in Geelong's team. I think he's arguably their most valuable player, and saw that throughout the season. So I think that does make me consider that Port will get it done. So I'm going to stick with Geelong winning, but given this out, I wouldn't be shocked if Port do get over the edge. But I think it'll be a close game. I think it'll be a good game, and it'll be interesting. And while Geelong are missing Stewart, Port missing Houston, to me, I think that he's a 2-time All-Australian, and I think he's really crucial to their side. What he does in the back line, I think, will be really important against the likes of Stengel, and his ability to work and assist the key defenders against Jeremy Cameron, I think, will be really important for them. So not having him will be a big out. But the crowd will be up for it. It'll be an intense atmosphere for Geelong, but they're no strangers to the big stage. And so I'll keep with Geelong winning, but I expect this one to be a good match. The Friday night primetime game at the G will be what many consider the game of the round, in the Bulldogs taking on the Hawks. And it just, as I mentioned earlier, just the two teams that the top four will be thankful are playing each other, because going in, they seem like the two most likely to make a charge from outside that top four. They're just in the best form. They really seem like they've put it all together at the right time. And I think this will be a high-scoring game, weather permitting. There's definitely talks of it raining on Friday night, so that could definitely put a dampener to it. It'll be interesting to see how those teams cope with the weather. I mean, the Bulldogs are very much used to Marvel Stadium, play in the roof, don't really play in the rain too often, whereas you saw Hawthorn against who was it? The Kangaroos is when they absolutely towed them and basically played dry with the footy in the wet. So it'll be interesting to see. That will likely play a factor in the game, but it's going to be exciting. And so I expect the Bulldogs to get the win. Purely Marcus Bontempelli is the reason behind that. I think he'll will that team through and carry it. He's going to be the best player on the ground. He's got that star power, and he's a player that will just shows his class repeatedly when the occasion requires it. And so I think he'll be able to drag the team to the win. And it just feels like we'll walk out of this game and go, that's why he won the AFLPA MVP. Like, those games are why he got it. He got that award. And so that's what I'm expecting out of this game. Hawks are a very good side and really well coached, but I think it may be a struggle for some of their younger players to be at a sold out G. I think they may struggle under the lights. I know they love the attention, the characters they bring to the game. I'm a massive fan of what they've done with all that stuff, and it wouldn't shock me to see them rise to the occasion, especially with the guidance of Bruce and Gunston and then Mitchell coaching, who have all been there and done it. I can see that definitely helping them, but I wouldn't be shocked if they do just struggle a bit and the Bulldogs experience gets them through and carried through on Bontempelli's backpack. So I think it'd be an amazing game. I think it'll be really exciting, one I'm definitely looking forward to watching as well. But I do have the Dogs winning, not comfortably, but probably by a couple of goals is what I'd expect this game to end up being. The game I'm personally most excited for is the Battle of the Bridge in Sydney on Saturday afternoon. I think it's got two of the hottest teams coming in to finals. I mean, I know I mentioned it with the Hawks Dogs that they were as well. I think these are the four teams. To me, these are the four teams that I think will the winner of the flag will come from there. And I think this could very well be a preview to the grand final. Regardless of which team loses, I can see them beating everyone else required to get through to the final and match up there. And it's really interesting. This will be the fourth time, I think, that these teams have ever matched up in a final and GWS have only been in the league for about a decade now, 10 to 12 years. I can't remember the exact year they came in. But yeah, in that short time, that this will be the fourth time in finals they've played. Between every other in-state rivalry, so like the Q Clash, the Showdown, the Perth Derby, combined, the rest of those derbies have played once in finals, which to me is a wild statistic that's happened 4 times, yet all the other longer rivalries have all only ever happened a combined total of once. And so in each of these games as well, GWS have won. They're yet to lose to Sydney in a final, and I think this will be the time that Sydney get over the hump. I just think at the SCG, they'll have the crowd behind them. They've come in really good form. They were able to get the rest against the Crows for some of their key players, and I think that'll just be big for the side to get through. So I expect it to be a high-scoring, intense game. I can see it getting quite heated, given it's also a rivalry and so much on the line. But I think it'll be a really, really exciting game. And so GWS winning wouldn't shock me at all. I mean, the likes of Jesse Hogan, Toby Green, Cornelio, like their squad has so much quality in it that I can just see them being able to pull it out. Especially to me, their history against Sydney suggests that they'll have confidence going in. I know in the regular season it's a bit more even, and Sydney won the matchups earlier in the year, I believe. But I think GWS will know they've won all the finals against them. They know how to do it. And so it'll be a really exciting game. I'm really looking forward to it. But I think Sydney will just get over the hump come the end of it. The final game of the round is up at the Gabba as the Lions take on Carlton. And this will be a rejuvenated Carlton given the injuries or the injured players that are expected to come back. I mean, Doherty's somehow returning after only suffering an ACL injury 185 days ago, something in that realm. So to come back and be able to play is wild, and that'll give the team a massive boost. They'll really want to perform well and show out for him. Kerno's expected to be back. Mackay's expected to be back. Even De Koning potentially, and McGovern. Like, I think there's something like 8 or 9 players are expected to return, which will be a massive boost to the side. And it's their key players too, and it'll be a much more fair reflection on the side as a whole than what we saw in the last few rounds for Carlton, where they really struggled and were putting out basically a VFL side with Patrick Cripps. And Lions, they wavered slightly towards the end of the season, which was to be expected. I mean, they did so much work, winning 10 on the bounce to get themselves into the finals after a really poor start to the season. And then I think for them to carry it through the entire regular season was going to be really tough. And I think they've had the week off. They'll reset. It's at the Gabba. They know how to play finals. They'll be like, we did this last year. Now it all starts again and we go. So I think they'll be a really strong side. I think this game has the most potential for a blowout of all the 4 games going on this first week of finals. I think this one, Brisbane could really roll them. It'll just, especially if some of the players returning just for Carlton aren't quite at the level required. But any time Patrick Cripps is on the field, you can never rule out Carlton. And so it'll be interesting. I mean, you could argue the same for Brisbane when they've got Lachie Neale. So it'll be a real big midfield battle, I think, for this game. I think that will be a big decider. Brisbane's inaccuracy in front of goal will be the determining factor, I think, as well in this game. Like, I think I'll struggle if they kick another 8 goals, 19 kind of performance. I think they'll struggle to win. Whereas if they can really hone in and get that back switched around, even if they can try and get it a bit more 50-50 than it has been, that'll give them a real strong chance. And really, I think that'll be too much for Carlton to kind of handle, who, while they're getting a lot of players back, their defense isn't exactly where they're wanting it to be and in its best point. So it'll be interesting. I mean, Carlton going to be fired up. I mean, Michael Voss stopped a car robbery and did that. So you can't tell me that between that, the players returning, Doherty coming back from the ACL, that the Carlton team won't be fired up and really looking to perform. It'll be interesting. I think, this is the most unknown game in terms of what will happen, because I think Brisbane, will be good. They just will perform well. How the game goes will be entirely up to Carlton. I think if they're on it 100%, really up for it, I can see them winning, but also I can see them just kind of floundering out and it being a bit of a blowout to Brisbane and them moving on quite easily. So it'll be interesting seeing how it all plays out. I think the Lions will win. I think that's just home ground advantage. I can see them holding strong. The marginal, just if I had to bet, I'd bet that it'll be close. I can see it being within a goal. I mean, Carlton won the first game of the season at the Gabba by 1 point, I'm pretty sure, and so I can see it kind of being close like that game was. But if it ends, I think it'll either be less than 10 or more than 40. It'll be, I can't see it being that kind of middle range of the range game. So let me know who you think will win each of these games in the comments below and who you have going to the finals. But yeah, they're my predictions for how this first week of finals will play out. The NFL season is finally back. The games are here, the preseason's done, all the talk is done, and it's time to get into the regular season. And I'm really looking forward to it. I think there's some exciting games in the first week. I've got a couple of predictions for what I think will be the best games of the round and how I think they'll play out. And it's a big season for a lot of teams and a lot of quarterbacks, especially, with a lot to prove. I think a few quarterbacks have been given a few years, and now it's kind of make or break. Same with some coaches with the squads they've been provided to really prove that they've got the ability to win it all. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how it all plays out this season. And I've done my predictions earlier as well, so be sure to check those out on the channel page. You can go back and see the video. I think it'll just be titled NFL Predictions. So you can go back, check that out. Let me know as well your comments as to who you think will win it all, both the whole competition and who you think will win the games this week as well. The first game of the round I'm really looking forward to is my Los Angeles Rams taking on the Detroit Lions this week. So it's a rematch from the playoffs last year where it was controversial ending in a heated matchup when there was the non-call on Puka Nacua that pretty much turned it over on fourth down for the Rams and meant the Lions could kneel it out to win. So there's a lot of animosity building between the teams, especially given the quarterback's history on each side. And I think this will be a really intense contest. I mean, there was some dirty plays. I was trying to think of a different word for it, but just some dirty plays from the Lions, in my opinion, in that matchup as well, where they injured some of the Rams players and some late hits and low hits. So I think there'll be a lot of animosity between the teams, and it'll be a rocking crowd as well in Detroit. They'll be up for it, especially given that finals game last year. They'll be wanting to see the team as well really build on the playoffs success last year they did have. It was a big step forward for them, who, given the struggles they've had as a franchise in recent histories, and then they'll be wanting to see them really go and be a contender this year. So I think the crowd will be really up for it. Both teams will be looking to start their seasons off well because they'll both have high hopes. And I think the Rams will be fired up for the revenge on that finals game. I mean, Matthew Stafford will hate the fact he lost his return game in Detroit, and he'll be looking to really make it right and improve a point. So I expect him to have a really big game. Cooper Kupp will be back and healthy. Puka Nacua will be looking to build on last season and show he wasn't just a one-season wonder. He'll be looking to really prove a markdown. Same with Kyren Williams. So I think it'll be a really exciting matchup. I can see it being fairly high scoring as well, and I think it'll be close. I'm predicting, but it's more so of a hope that the Rams will get the win. I think I'm expecting Stafford's drop to really just drive the team over the line is kind of how I see this playing out. But I think it's definitely a biased thought that I've got with that. I think I'm more so picturing what I want to happen, which is just the Rams go through and win it and get that good start off. Because I think the Rams are on that edge where they could either really contend for the Super Bowl this season, or they could fall and struggle and it's all basically predicated on Matthew Stafford's fitness for me. Like, he's so good. He's unbelievable quarterback, and how important he is to the team cannot be undervalued. Like, he is just unreal. And so I think it would just be, they'll be on that edge. If he gets injured and misses multiple games, I think the Rams will really struggle, like they did a few years ago as well when he was injured and the offensive line basically got decimated. Whereas if he's fit, I can see us having a massive season and really building on it. And Cooper Kupp will be wanting to have a good season and prove that he's not quite fallen off just yet. As long as he can stay healthy, I think it'd be really good, especially with Puka Nacua. I think they can be a real good tandem together and really work in tandem and as a real dynamic duo, with Cooper Kupp's route running ability, which is second to none in the league, and then Puka Nacua, who also is a great route runner, but he's just intensity and drive and just ability to get yards after contact is immense. And so they'll be able to really work well together, I think, as long as they can stay healthy and Stafford's throwing the ball. And then for Detroit, I think they'll have a really good season. I think Jared Goff's really improved as well. I think last year would have been a big confidence boost for him, just showing that he can really perform and drive the team into the playoffs. The players will only be getting better. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs will have another step up. Penei Sewell will continue to be amazing. Aiden Hutchinson as well on defense. So I expect it to be a really good game for him. And so I hope and expect the Rams to win, and I can see it going that way. And I think it'll probably be the best game of the round, is how I see it going. Another game I have being exceptional this week is the Ravens taking on the Chiefs as well. It's the season opener. It's an amazing season opener. You've got the defending champion Chiefs taking on arguably the best team in the AFC during the regular season last year, the Ravens. I mean, it'll be incredible. Lamar will be really out to prove a point and get that early win. He's got the 2 MVPs now. He'll be chasing that ring. That's what he's after now. So he's proven his ability. He now just wants to back it up and show that team success. And then the Chiefs just know what they're doing. They'll be backing it up. They've got all the drive to go for that three-peat. I think Patrick Mahomes is at that point in his career where all he needs to get him to the Brady conversation properly is just more rings. That's basically all he can do, and he'll be driving, and getting that three-peat I think will be massive for them. So I expect them to be really good, and Travis Kelce won't have many years left, you'd imagine. So I'd expect him to be really coming out with a vengeance, and potentially if they go on and get that three-peat, that's when he'll call it quits, because there's not much of a higher point you can really have. So I think it'll be a really intense game. I think it'll be really good. It's probably an early insight as to what the AFC Championship game will be as well. I can see both teams having really strong regular seasons, and then coming the playoffs, the Ravens will be looking to really drive. I think it's interesting. They're kind of two different teams in the sense of the Ravens, I think, having a good regular season will drive them forward and drive them to get to the AFC Championship. They'll use the confidence they build in the regular season. Whereas the Chiefs just feel like they'll get through the regular season, they'll probably be pretty good because they just naturally are. But when it gets to playoffs, they'll be like, okay, and now full form, here we go. We'll really turn it on. This is when it matters. And so it's just two different ways to go about it in terms of the regular season. But I think the Chiefs will win that first game, opening night. I think they'll come out with a real point to prove and get the job done. But it should be really exciting. And I don't think there's a better opening game matchup you could have got, to be honest. I think it's going to be awesome. And I'm looking forward to getting that season underway. Every NFL season, there's always teams that have a lot to prove and really on an edge as to what their trajectory will be for the long-term future. And to me, these are the 4 teams that I think have the most to lose come this season if things do go wrong, but also can gain the most if things go right. And it's for a combination of reasons, whether it's the coach or the players, specifically a lot of quarterbacks with a lot to prove, but these are the 4 teams I think 2024-2025 will be a make or break season for. Kyle Shanahan needs to win the Super Bowl this year with the 49ers, or else I think serious questions will be casted over his ability to get over the hump. And so the 49ers to me have a massive make or break season this year, and there'll be a lot riding on it. He's 0-3 in finals. They've consistently had arguably the best team in terms of talent in the NFL, yet he's just never been able to get over the hump. They put up a good fight in all of the games, but I think just when it comes to actually getting it done, if they're not able to do it this year, I think the front office will be really looking around the league, wondering if he'll have the ability and what coaches are available. I mean, you look at Sean McVay in the Rams, who was on that Washington coaching staff with Kyle Shanahan. He's got a Super Bowl, and I think the San Francisco 49ers will be looking at McVay and other coaches around the league just to see whether Shanahan really stacks up against those coaches. I mean, 3 opportunities, and with many thought the 49ers would win last year, but just they weren't able to get it done. I think it was a case of when your team's so strong and you've been there repeatedly, it's hard to not look at the coach at this point and say, is he the best person to win it? The big one. I mean, he's able to get you there. He's proven that you'll be a good regular season team, but it's all about lifting that Lombardi trophy, and he just hasn't proven he's got the ability to do it when he's in the best situation. So I think he's got a big year coming up, and I also think this year will be a big year for Brock Purdy as well. I mean, last year he was a lot better than his rookie season when he came in for those few games. Everyone's like, okay, well, that what we saw at the end of that season before wasn't just a flash in the pan. Like, he's actually got some quality, but I think if they struggle this season to win, then I think question marks will be placed over Brock Purdy. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. It's just the narrative that will go along with it when you've got CMC and Debo and Ayuk and Kittle, and then Fred Warner on defense and Nick Bosa. Like, when you look at their team, it's absolutely stacked. People will look at, well, what's holding him back? And when you say, well, how did the Chiefs beat them in the Super Bowl last year? It's like, well, Patrick Mahomes basically beat them. He carried that team through, and go, okay, well, it's the quarterbacks, compare that. I think that's just the narrative that will spin from this game or from this season if the 49ers do struggle. So I think it'll be a big season for Brock Purdy to prove he's got that ability to win at the highest level and take them there. So it'll be interesting to see how they go. I mean, they'll be good this season. They're the favorites to get out of the NFC for sure. I think they'll go back there. It'll just be that it feels like their season almost doesn't start until the Super Bowl. And so if they fail to even make the Super Bowl, then I think even more questions will be asked. But assuming they get there, it'll be about winning that, or else next offseason could be really interesting as well, given Debo's aging. Ayuk just signed the extension, but was reportedly wanting to leave. And so I think it'll be a big season for the 49ers. The Bills have been perennial contenders in the AFC, but just can never get past the Chiefs, it seems. And this season, I think it'll be make or break for them. I mean, I know they've just traded Stephon Diggs over the offseason, but I think the team will still be looking to compete, and there'll be real question marks raised, especially over Josh Allen, who's already starting to have those raised about whether he can actually take a team all the way to the Super Bowl. And I think this season, especially in the playoffs, it'll be really interesting to see how that all goes and how he's able to take the team. I mean, they're not the favorites in the AFC. They're not even ranked that highly, I wouldn't say. I mean, there's a number of teams you expect to be higher than them, such as the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Bengals, I think, are also a better outfit for them. And so that's just 3 teams off the top of my head. And so they'll be expected to have a really good playoff run and really make a contention. I don't think they've got the same requirements that the 49ers did in terms of, I don't think it's Super Bowl or bust for them like it is the 49ers, but I think they'll be expecting to see a lot in the playoffs, especially from Josh Allen, to indicate he's the guy to take them forward, or else I can see, especially as indicated by the Stephon Diggs trade, I can see the Bills potentially trying to blow it up and go back to a rebuild moving forward. So I think this season will be really big for the Bills, how that's gone, especially Josh Allen. And if he does look to be moved next season, and this is all hypothetical, it'd be surprising if they did, but if they look to move, it'd be interesting to see where he ended up, because he's got clear quality as well, and so you wonder how that would all play out. But we'll discuss it should that happen. But I think the Bills are really a team to watch this season for how they perform and the question marks that'll be raised if things don't go their way. Back to the NFC, and the Philadelphia Eagles, I think, are very much like the Bills this year, where I think it's about how can they really contend and have playoff success. I mean, they made it to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, obviously lost to the Chiefs, but now they've lost Travis Kelce. It'll be interesting to see what Jalen Hurts can do now. It's expected he'll really take up a bigger role in terms of setting up his protection. There's talk that Jason Kelce did a lot of that, calling out for him and setting that protection. Now he's gone. Jalen Hurts is looking to take up that mantle, which is good for him, that he's really wanting to and really taking the leadership on, because the most important thing for the offensive line is to ensure the quarterback feels comfortable with the protection, because if the quarterback's not comfortable, even if they are actually blocking them, if the quarterback feels under pressure or isn't certain, then that's going to dictate things. Whereas if the quarterback is comfortable and can back themselves with what they pick, he can have a really big year. But I think for him specifically as well, I think it's a massive year. The Eagles they've had such a good team. Last year they were predicted by many to win the Super Bowl. The team's exceptional. The weapons they've got and the wide receiver roles, they're just all the talent across the park. It's just immense. And so I think to me, I would say that a pass mark for the season would be an NFC Championship game. I think it's tough to say they need to make it to the Super Bowl when you've got the likes of San Fran, who will also be looking to get back there and I would say have a better squad. But I think the Eagles really need to come out and make that championship game in order to quiet some of the talk, or else if they have a bit of a flounder like they did last year when they really struggled through that, I think it was towards the middle of the season where they struggled, they were able to fight back and then get into the playoffs. But if that's how things go, especially if that's how the season starts, then I think there'll be massive question marks over the squad as a whole, and especially Jalen Hurts, who already has his doubters. I can see there being a lot of talk. So they're definitely a team to watch in the NFC this season, and there's a lot of expectation, but they've definitely got the quality they can do it. So we'll see whether they're able to fulfill it. My final team to watch this season for it to be a make or break year is in the AFC, and it's the Dolphins. It's like the last few teams have been, like a lot of the make or break questions are centered around the quarterback, given it's the most important position on the field. And that's where a lot of team success is driven from. And so I think this season is a big season for Tua. I really like him. I think he's great, but he's definitely got his struggles. And when you've got Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill and the offense, they've been consistently one of the best offenses in the NFL, but they've just not been able to translate that to any amount of playoff success, which is where it really matters. And then as Tyreek Hill enters his 30s, Jalen Ramsey on defense as well, who's a massive player for them, gets into his 30s, I think it's really that time when the Dolphins will be looking, this will be the season where they judge whether Tua is the guy to really get them going forward, or whether they need to make a change and improve that quarterback position next off season to make the most of Tyreek Hill while they've got it. And so it'll be a lot. I think they just need to make a good playoffs run. I think if they can get through a couple of rounds, if they could get to an AFC Championship game, I think that would be massive for them. I think that would be a really good indicator. But at the very least, just like win a couple of playoff games and get through, or at least get the top seed, I think, in the AFC. Almost forgot their conference there, but get the top seed or near the top of the AFC, and then be able to get through win a game or two in the playoffs. I think that's what the Dolphins fans will be looking for this season. I think it's kind of what they're expecting, because should the season kind of follow the same pattern as the last couple of years, then it'll be rather disappointing for them, and they'll be looking at where they can make changes to improve. Because I think Mike McDaniel is an incredible coach. I can't see that changing. To me, just feels very Eric Spoelstra like for an NBA comparison. Just he feels like he's really got the smarts and can really build that culture, and must just be a Florida thing or a Miami thing really to have that style of coach. But I think he's really good at it, so I don't think that'll be a change they'll look to make. But I can see Tua potentially moving on next season if they struggle again. So I think it's a big year for the Dolphins to really prove out and to show out and prove they can do it in the playoffs come next season. Arnie Slot took Eric Ten Hag to the absolute sword and put on a tactician masterclass against Man United, and just completely showed the different levels to the sides in both the quality on the pitch and the managers in the dugout. I think you could just see straight away from the off that Liverpool were on it. I mean, there was probably 3 minutes at the start where United had a bit of a run, and then after that, Liverpool had the offside goal, scored, and from then you were like, okay, well, Liverpool are up for this, and that'll be over. It felt like it was Liverpool's game. If Liverpool were up for it, they were going to win, is how it felt coming into it, and just you could tell near straight away that that's what was going to happen. And just the midfield completely outplayed Liverpool's midfield completely outplayed Man United's. Just Casemiro looked old, which is such a shame because he is a genuine legend of the sport. He's unreal, and that midfield at Real Madrid with Kroos and Modric is one of the best midfields of all time. And so to see just how poor he played was sad from that kind of aspect, but just the energy that the midfield had for Liverpool was unreal. Gravenberch was everywhere. Szoboszlai was charging through the side. McAllister just winning duels. He wins it off Maino to get the ball to Szoboszlai for Salah's goal, and just it was unreal. It was amazing to watch, and it just to get that win. And Slot couldn't have asked for a better start to his Liverpool career heading into the first international break. I mean, 3 games, was it 7 goals, no goals conceded, second the table to Man City only on goal difference. I mean, everything's gone as well as it could have. Players are playing unreal, and just it's all looking good. And so as long as they can stay fit, they're going to be a real contender this season, it appears. And it's early in the season and a lot can change, and at some point Slot will come up against managers who have a bit more tactical nous than Ten Hag. So like Guardiola and Arteta, I also think Emery as well will provide different tactical opportunities and challenges to Slot, and so it'll be interesting to see how he handles that. And as well, when Liverpool get to the Champions League games and they're playing 2 or 3 times a week, that'll prove a whole nother challenge. So a lot can still happen, but in terms of a start to the season, I mean, it's as good as you could hope for. And so it's exactly what Slot needed to do, was to put down this marker. It was coming in after Jurgen Klopp was always going to be a challenge, and it felt like for many, I think, that it was going to be a bit of a death mark, because you saw it with Sir Alex when Moyes came in, and then when Emery came in for Wenger, just how things struggled. But one of the credits to Klopp is that he left Slot aside, that he could come in and make one signing for a guy who hasn't even played yet and is a backup position, and put on a performance like he has in these first 3 games. And Klopp's just left inside, knew he wanted to leave a side that could keep competing, whereas you saw that Man United side that Sir Alex left, that team was dead. They were going to struggle even with Sir Alex still there. I mean, their best players were aging. Their best period had done. That was their last hurrah that season. And so I think similar with Wenger, I mean, that side had already been falling down as well. Emery kind of kept them around where they had been. And so that's one of the things that sometimes you can struggle with when long-term managers leave, is what side they're inheriting. But Klopp left at a time when Liverpool were really good. This is a side that competed with Arsenal and City for 32 games last season in the Premier League before they fell away. And so I can see them really keeping going and giving City and Arsenal a run for the money. I mean, Arsenal drew against Brighton, but they'll bounce back. I mean, Brighton are a decent side, so I wouldn't be shocked to see them put up a fight to Liverpool and City as well this season. It was just incredible to see, and it gives a lot of hope for Liverpool fans this season that Slot is the guy to take over. His calm demeanour, I think, is great because he just seems so unapologetically him. He's not trying to just replicate what Klopp did. He's gone, nope, I'm my own person. I'm going to implement my style onto this team and have them playing my way. In press conferences, I'm going to be how I am. I'm not going to go out of my way to go over the top and endear myself to the fans to try and get them on my side if things struggle. He just backs himself in to go, I'm a good enough manager to be here. I'm going to prove why, and you'll love me because of that. And that's awesome. That's exactly what he needed to do. And because I think the fans would have seen right through it if he tried to fake who he was and try and replicate what Klopp did, because they're just two different styles of manager from a personality point. And Klopp is that kind of almost like father figure, just really endearing, just about the people, whereas Slot feels a bit more Guardiola-esque, where it's just the tactics and the football, and that's what he's about. And so the calmness Liverpool play with shows through, and then on the touchline, just Slot, I think it's the second goal Liverpool put out a clear where he gives the fist bump and then he instantly just snaps back to calmness, and it's almost like the Chris Paul clip you see where he's doing that laughing, then instantly just straight face walking past the other team shaking hands. So it's great to see. Loved it. Beating United away. It's the biggest game in English football, and so to get that crossed off, from an occasion point of view, he won't play a bigger game this season. Obviously, as I say, there'll be tougher matchups in terms of teams, but for Liverpool, it's a perfect start, and you couldn't ask for much more. And I think it'll be interesting to see how the season goes, but a couple of breaks, teams rest up. I'm hoping not too many players actually go away on the international break, just because having the new manager, I think Slot would appreciate the extra time on the training ground to really drill in what his side expects and how he wants them to play, and the smaller things that you can't always teach. Because during the season, when they get into the flow of the 3 games a week, they're barely training. They'll just be playing games, rest, recovery, play game, rest, recovery, and they won't get much training time to implement the tactics. So I think that would be really good if a lot of players stay behind and actually just work on the training ground. Especially, I'm assuming they're friendlies this early in the season, so just why do the players care to go and play friendlies? I mean, just stay and improve with the club side for me. But I think it was really impressive result getting back to the United game, and so I want to hear your guys' thoughts and who you thought stood out for Liverpool and United, both positive and negatives, how you think each team will go this season as well, and what you've made of Slot's first 3 games in charge of Liverpool. And also let me know how long you think Ten Hag will last this season as well. Will he make it to the end of the season? Will he be able to turn around the mood in the club, or will he be gone before the end? Let me know in the comments below. The AFLW is back, and round 1 definitely didn't disappoint at all. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not the most hardcore watcher of the AFL. Or the AFLW, I should say, and I try and watch a few games each year. I always try and find more, but there's such a short season, it's always a bit more difficult, I think, to catch all the games, just because it's almost like by the time you get into it, the season feels like it's wrapping up. I watch as many Crows games especially as I can, but I always try and watch the other games and support it. But the biggest thing I took away from round one, where I was able to watch a fair few of the games, was the year-on-year improvement of this league is incredible. Just every year you watch it, they're just better and better and better, and it's unreal. And just it's not surprising because to be expected. I think they're heading in. This is season 8, I think, of the AFLW, and they're now at the point where the draftees that are coming in were early teens or in early high school and would have been playing club football, but wouldn't have had anywhere they could go after that. I mean, a lot of those junior clubs get to an age group where girls aren't able to play anymore. It's just the guys that can play, and so where they previously would have had to stop, they didn't have anything that they were then aiming for, whereas now the draftees coming in just have that goal, and you can just see their quality. I mean, Sinead Goody in the Crows Port showdown game she came in for Port, and you could just tell she had that quality straight away. And I think that'll be more what you see more and more each year, is those draftees that have now had the opportunity to really have the goal of playing in the AFLW and striving for it, because that's the real make or break years for professional sportsmen and athletes, is that kind of 10, 11 to 16, 17 age. They're the years when if you really put in the hard work, then that's when you'll have the chance to make it. And girls used to not be able to have the goal of making the W, or not have a league they could have the goal of joining, and so they would lose out on those years. But the new draftees can drive for that. They know what they're working towards during those years and really focus on it. And the biggest thing I've noticed as well is just the fitness feels like the biggest difference in terms of the separating the top teams from the bottom teams. It's just the teams that have those players that've got the speed to just run and carry with the ball and get it upfield, especially in a league that's still developing, and so they don't kick it as far yet, and the ball skills are still getting there, which is to be expected. But like I said, improve year on year, and that fitness ability just really separates the top teams, and just being able to, you'll break defenses open when you've got that run and carry. And I think that's what I noticed in the Crows game, and you saw it when I was watching games last year for the Lions and the Roos. They could really do it, and I thought Sydney as well had that real drive and carry. And it's amazing to me. If you're not watching the AFLW, you're missing out. Just because the constant development and the genuine care the players have for the game and the clubs, and you can just tell that none of the players in the AFLW take the opportunity they've got for granted. I mean, they all know how hard they had to work to get that opportunity, and they deserve it, but you can tell none of them take it for granted because they know what it's like to not have it. Whereas you very quickly see in the men's competition where they just know they've always known it's an option. It always has been, always will be. There's a lot of ego that comes with that, whereas I don't think you see that as often in the AFLW game. And so it's just great to see that genuine care they have. There was a bit of fight and scuffle, was a bit of biff this round as well, which is just it happened in the Lions Roos game, in the Sydney Collingwood game. You saw it. There was a bit going on in the showdown as well. It was just all over the place, and it was great to see just no one backing down. They were up for it. It was awesome. And so I thoroughly enjoy watching the AFLW, and it's also a case of just sometimes it's good to take some and go, you're genuinely watching history when you're watching AFLW, because when you think in 2 or 3 decades time, the league will be playing at the big grounds, and they'll be playing at the Adelaide Oval, the Gabba, the G, the SCG, all those of the same. They'll be playing at those grounds, and it'll just feel normal. But to be able to go back and when you're older and look back and go, I remember being able to say you supported it from the start, I think is really nice. And like, I've got a baby niece, and when I say I go, knowing that she could have the goal of playing AFL, and by supporting the AFLW now, I'm also supporting her potentially. And so those things, just being able to acknowledge that it's genuine history and it's great to see. And I think the more people that can get around it, the better, because it's genuinely amazing. It's genuinely amazing to see, because the league's awesome. And I think more people are starting to realize it, but I think we can definitely do a better job in growing it. And I think one thing they could definitely do as well to really help growing is, I think the season only being 11 games, it's just too short. Just teams' seasons can be derailed too quickly by minor injuries. Like if someone gets a 3 or 4 week injury, that would hurt a team in the men's competition. You'd be like, oh, that sucks, but it wouldn't ruin their season. Whereas in the AFL, I mean, if Richmond lost Conti for 4 games, I mean, their season's done basically. I mean, she's the best player in the comp, and just to have her down, like their season will be over, even though it might be a pulled hamstring and something so minor. So I think they definitely need to grow it out. I understand why they don't. I think it's something it's just one of those revenue things. They just need to keep building, and it will eventually get there. But 11 games, just too short of a season as well. I don't think it's a fair reflection on the best teams. I think you should at least have to play every team once as well, just to be, for me, the best competitions. One of the things I love about the Premier League is the fact you play every team twice. It's even, you're home and away. You know, come the end of that season, these are the best teams. And I think with finals, and playoffs, I think you can get away from that a little bit. But to me, 11 games is way too short, and they need to change that. And hopefully next season they do. But getting to the showdown specifically, was great to see how competitive it was. And I find it funny watching the women's showdown, because I don't have that same like hatred for Port that I do in the men's competition as a fan. Like I don't like have that whole despise them, like least like team in all sports. And I think it's just down to the fact that I don't want to despise them, because I want the league to succeed. So I want the team to succeed. It's one of those things, like I want them to play really well. I do still want Port to, like, I want Port to get the wooden spoon every year, but I want them to still at least play better, if that makes sense. It's just, I find it really interesting, just like that different thought process, because I know the men's game's not going anywhere and it's doing really well. I know that me hating on the Port fans and the Port fans hating on the Crows fans, like I know that won't impact the sport or the league at all. Whereas in the AFLW, because it's so new, you want to make sure it's getting all the support it can, and the players are getting the support they should. And so I find it really interesting, but it was still great to see the Crows get the win. Hopefully they can go all the way this year. I'm looking forward to watching their game this weekend as well, and it's really exciting. But yeah, if you're not watching the AFLW, you've got to make sure you check it out. It's unbelievable and definitely worth getting around it. If you're a fan of sports, you should definitely be tuning in, and never know, you might grow to love it a bit more and appreciate it for just the improvement and the history that's being made in front of you. That has been episode 8 of the Armchair Athlete podcast. I appreciate you guys all listening. Please be sure to like and subscribe. So like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn notification bell on as well. My goal is to try and get these out every Wednesday or Thursday. I know this one will be a bit later, but every Wednesday or Thursday weekly, and then the clips going up after that. Also, be sure to let me know in the comments what you want me to talk about, any topics, any just suggestions in terms of the videos that you think I can improve on. If you do enjoy it, be sure to let your friends know and try and grow it out. And yeah, just hopefully you enjoy and can stick around, and we can keep the community growing and building out, and go from there. But I appreciate you guys all listening, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.